So let us come to question number 4. The government of Bingia has introduced a new tax on tickets for airline travel. Bingia has two types of travelers, business travelers and leisure travelers. Business travelers in Bingia have an elasticity of demand equal to minus 1.2, while Bingian leisure travelers have an elasticity of minus 3. Airlines can price discriminate among these groups, that is, they can charge different prices to the different types of flyers in the market. Which type of traveler will bear a larger fraction of the burden of the new tax on their ticket? Explain. So just by looking on the elasticities that we had, we can already make a statement here. So elasticity leisure travelers. So this was given by minus 3. And the elasticity of business travelers was given, we just finished this here. The elasticity of business travelers was given by minus 1.2. And as you can see in absolute values, the elasticity of leisure travelers is strictly larger than the elasticity of business travelers. And what we can say then is that the business travelers will carry the larger fraction of the burden of the new tax on airline tickets. Yeah, so business travelers carry a larger fraction of the burden of the new tax. And you might ask yourself, so why do leisure travelers have a more elastic demand than business travelers? Well, the reason is that business travelers typically have no other choice than picking particular flights in going to meetings or something like this, which are fixed dates, and they cannot react as strongly as leisure travelers to changes in prices, because leisure travelers can deviate to other types of transportation, whereas business travelers typically fly to their destination. Yeah, so leisure travelers can change their destination, so they can, if ticket prices are too high in a particular, so for a particular line, so a destination, then they simply pick another line. So they have more possibilities to deviate than business travelers, and hence this explains why the elasticity is larger in absolute terms for leisure travelers than for business travelers. Okay, so this brings us to question number 5. In question number 5, we are given a monopolist. So we have Massive Products Inc. This is a firm which is a monopolist, and it has some cost of production given by 10 times the quantity which it produced plus 2 times the quantity it produced by square. And it faces a demand curve which is given by 200 minus P. And the question in sub-exercise A is, what price will the monopolist charge and what profits will the monopolist earn? What will consumer surplus be? Okay, so the optimization problem of a monopolist is given by maximizing the profit, which is then the quantity which is supplied times the price minus the costs which the monopolist is facing, given that it produces some amount of the quantity. So let us write down the following. So the profit of monopolists profit of a monopolist is given by price times quantity, which is the revenue. Quantity, oh, I misspelled here. Quantity minus costs. So what is the price? So the price here, we had a demand curve which was Q equal to 200 minus P. We can rewrite this in order to get the inverse demand function, which is then the price demand depending on the quantity. So the price would then be P. Sorry, it's not P, of course. It's 200 minus Q. So I just solved the equation which defined the demand for the price, and then I get 200 minus Q. This I multiply with the quantity, which is Q, and from this I subtracted the cost of production, which is 10 times Q minus 2 times Q by the power of 2. Yeah, this is the profit, which we will denote by pi. This is the profit of the firm, of the monopolist. And the question is, what is the profit maximizing price that the monopolist would charge? Well, in order to find out what the optimal price is, we need to find out what the optimal quantity is, and this is what we will be doing now. So we take the first order condition. So first order condition, in that we are taking the derivative of the profit with respect to the quantity, and this gives us the following. So if we take the derivative, we end up with, let me just calculate this real quick. This is 200 minus 2q minus 10 minus 4 times q, and this should be equal to 0. And at the end, what you will have is that, so there is if you reformulate this, what you have is 200 minus 2q is equal to 10 plus 4q. And I mean, I didn't solve it yet for q because I wanted to show you something. So the term on the left-hand side, this is the marginal revenue. So how much does your revenue increase when you marginally increase the amount of quantity, so the quantity that you produce, and the right-hand side are the marginal costs. So how much does each additional unit that I produce cost me as a monopolist? And the profit is maximized if you produce a quantity such that the marginal revenue is equal to the marginal cost. And then what you get is the optimal quantity, which maximizes the profit of the monopolist, is equal to 31.67. Yeah, so this is the solution, and the profit maximizing price. So to get the price, what we do is we substitute the quantity that we produce, so the monopolist produces, into the inverse demand function. So P star is then equal to 200 minus Q star, and then this is equal to 168.33 dollars. Yeah, so this would be the profit maximizing price for the monopolist. And now we need to find out about the value of the consumer surplus. So consumer surplus corresponds to a quantity which basically tells you how much do all the consumers who have a higher willingness to pay than $168.33, how much do they save relative to their willingness to pay for the product of this monopolist. And this is kind of a measure on, this is measured by the consumer surplus. So what we need to find out first is what is the price such that no consumer will buy the product anymore. Yeah, so this is the highest willingness to pay for the product in the market. So the highest willingness to pay for the product can be found by setting the demand to zero and solving for the price. So what we do is we set 200 minus P equal to 0. And then what we get is P, and I will denote it by P upper bar, just to denote the highest price that the monopolist can charge, such that, no consumer buys the product anymore. So above or equal to a price equal to P upper bar, which is then 200, no consumer will buy the product anymore. And we need this because the consumer rent is given by the following. So the consumer rent is equal to 1/2 times P upper bar minus P star times the quantity, which is produced by the monopolist. Yeah, so this is the consumer surplus, and we calculated all those values, and we end up with 1/2 times P upper bar, just wanted to substitute, times 200 minus, I think the price was 168, 168.33 times the quantity, which was, I think it was 31.67. And if you calculate this, you end up with a consumer rent, which is equal to $501.39. Yeah, so this is measured in dollars as well. So this is the consumer surplus of the consumer surplus in this economy. So how much do all individuals, all consumers in this economy who have a higher willingness to pay than the actual equilibrium price save in terms of money? And I forgot to do one thing, so we also need to calculate the profit of the monopolist. Let us do so the profit in equilibrium. Let us do it real quick here. So equilibrium profit the equilibrium profit can be simply calculated by the following. So pi star is then equal to the price in equilibrium times the quantity in equilibrium minus the costs, which then depends on the equilibrium values, 2 times q star by the power of 2. And if you enter all the values and you calculate the expression, you end up with $3,008.33. That's the equilibrium profit of the monopolist. So, sub-exercise B. Here we have a change in terms of taxes, in that now we are asking ourselves how the monopolist price and profits will change if we impose a tax of $15 per unit on the buyers of the product. And then the question in C is, what is the dead weight burden of the tax? Yes, so how much kind of value is destroyed in this economy due to, so how much efficiency loss do we have in this economy due to the tax? But yeah, let us start with B. So in B, there will be a change. So tax changes demand curve So the tax is changing the demand curve because now the buyers will not only pay the sticker price P, but they will pay P plus 15. So the new demand curve is then given by 200 minus P plus 15. Okay, and this is then equal to 185 minus P. Now the inverse demand, which we will need for calculating the profit of the monopolist in equilibrium. So the inverse demand is then simply given by solving this equality here with respect to P. So then we get P is equal to 185 minus Q. This is the inverse demand. And then what we get is the revenue, which is then equal to P times Q. So it's equal to 185 minus Q times Q. And before I showed you that if the monopolist is maximizing its profit, it chooses a quantity such that marginal revenue is equal to marginal costs. So then we need the marginal revenue. So the marginal revenue is simply the derivative of this expression here with respect to Q. So it would be 185 minus 2 times Q. The marginal costs, they do not change because we have no change in costs here in this sub-exercise. So the marginal costs are still equal to, I think it was 10 plus 4 times Q. Therefore, if we set the marginal revenue equal to the marginal costs, and if we then solve this for the optimal quantity in this economy, we end up with 29.17. Yeah, I mean, this is a little bit stupid. So Q star is equal to 29.17. Yeah, so this is the new quantity in that the monopolist will choose to produce in due to the tax. Yeah, so there will be less quantity which will be produced compared to the situation that we had before. So the profit maximizing price, so P star is then, so this is the sticker price, is 185 minus Q star. This is equal to $155.83. And profits, so pi star is then simply given by P star times Q star minus the costs, which was then 10 times Q star minus 2. Was it 2? Let me check again. Yes, 2 times Q by the power of 2. And then if we, of course, star, then if we substitute for everything, we end up with a profit which is equal to $2,552.08. So this is the new profit of the monopolist. And yeah, as you can see, there is a reduction here compared to the situation before. And yeah, this is what we will be needing in sub-exercise C. But we can do one step also already in this sub-exercise. So the new consumer surplus. So the consumer surplus, we consider taxes, something that we also need in sub-exercise C. So the new consumer surplus can be calculated in the following way. So it's 1/2 times the choke price. So this is the price that I told you about before, the price above which there is no demand anymore for the good. That's called choke price. So it was P upper bar before I denoted it by P upper bar. Here it's a little bit different because here consumers also have to pay $15 for each unit that they buy. So the new choke price will be 200 minus 15, so it's 185. From this, we subtract the price that the consumers end up paying, which is 155.83. So 155.83. And this will be multiplied with the quantity which is supplied by the monopolist in equilibrium, which is 29.17. And if you calculate this, you end up with 425.347. And this is actually all that we need for sub-exercise C, because in sub-exercise C, we were asked the following. So what is the deadweight burden of the tax? So the deadweight burden can be calculated by comparing the total welfare without the tax and the total welfare with the tax. So deadweight loss, so deadweight loss is equal to total welfare without tax minus total welfare with tax. And total welfare is consumer surplus. Oh, sorry, switch to German. It's consumer surplus plus firm's monopolist profit. Okay, so we need to compare the total welfare before and after taxes, and then we get the deadweight loss. So the total welfare without taxes was the following. So that, let me just write deadweight loss. I will shortcut it with DWL. The deadweight loss is then the consumer rent without taxes, so 3,008.33 plus the profit of the firm, of the monopolist, which was 501.39 minus the consumer surplus under taxes, so 2,500. Sorry, just made a mistake here. So 2,552.0.8 plus the profit of the firm, which was 425.347 plus the tax revenue that the government got, which is the quantity which is produced and sold, so 29.17 times 15, which is the tax. And if you calculate this, you end up with 275, which is basically the deadweight loss due to the tax that we have. Yeah, so if the government is deciding to impose a tax of 275, if the government is imposing a unit tax of 10, there will be an efficiency loss, which is measured by the deadweight loss, and it will be 275.